Welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders
and the TV show Wings
and all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox. Val, how are you?
Good. How are you?
So nice to see you.
So nice to see you as well.
And hear you. So our regular listeners will notice that we now have professional mics.
Yes.
Professional headphones. I had to go to 2 or 3 different stores because of shipping delays, but
yeah, but we are like very, very top-notch professional right now. I mean, my if you notice, my mic is gold.
I didn't notice.
It's gold. It's like I'm Lady Gaga at the inauguration. It's very glam. So.
I really wish they wouldn't make electronics in different colors because it's just a cognitive load I don't need. Like, okay, I've spent all this time. I've looked at CNET reviews. I'm ready to pick an electronic, and now I've got to pick between rose gold,
bronze,
nickel, brush nickel, chrome.
Right. Yeah.
Just have black.
Just like give us black and that's all we need. I mean, yeah. I don't need to have to think about that too much. I just want the delicious audio. So.
This is why we both shop at Aldi.
That's right. Because they give you one choice.
When I go to a grocery store, I'm in there so long because I'm staring at the options. I'm looking at the prices. I'm like comparing weights. You go to Aldi, it's like there's one kind of mustard.
And it's also like super German, so they like have it organized where they just wind you through it. You don't get lost. You don't get turned around. You're just on this conveyor belt.
It's the Autobahn.
Yes,
grocery stores.
You are just in a slipstream and you can't control yourself, and it's very like comforting
unless they have one of these stocking carts blocking your path, in which case nobody can get by. The big they're like the big things at the airport that you carry your luggage on,
right? Or like the stuff. Guy whose like job it is to break down those boxes. It's just like this giant, he's just like taking the like boxes and putting them in a giant thing.
But when I'm when I misjudge how many bags I need, then I'm the person running around looking for empty boxes to put my stuff in so I don't have to pay 5 cents for a bag. Well, we could have another podcast after this one that's just about Aldi.
Just about Aldi. I have a lot to say.
Aldi is a mental health choice, and people don't realize that, but you are reducing the cognitive load on decision making by shopping at Aldi, and people are just not aware that they could be helping themselves. But we digress.
That's a definite digression. But I mean, the audience wants it. So.
Okay, so we're here to talk about something that we're both really excited about. I have to say, I put this at the very top of our list without any thought whatsoever. It occurred to me. I plopped it down. Then I realized it actually didn't start in the 90s.
I was gonna chide you because it's kind of a cheat because
I know.
Because so we're talking about Father Dowling Mysteries today, which started in 1989, so it's like on the edge of the 90s.
Now, if a show in 89 only ran for 3 seasons, that means it was a huge turd, right?
Yes,
they only gave it 3 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I know why. Just because I was looking up the TV schedule and I was like, this show never had a chance.
The executive's fault.
Yes, exactly. Like,
what happened?
Well, so okay, it ran on NBC for 1 season and then moved to ABC for the last 2 seasons.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. I think that's
in the olden times, switching networks. How often did that happen?
I feel like it happens a lot more now.
Well, yeah, because it's streaming. Things will go.
Yeah, they're like, okay, this got canceled off of Fox, but Hulu's picking it up or something like that.
I do think as a layperson, as someone who's not in the biz, it is hard it's hard to understand that the production of a show is not tied to the network.
Yes,
really.
Exactly.
Like that a different production team makes it and then just shops it around, but you identify shows by the network.
Right. Well, I mean, there's also, you develop a pilot at a certain network, and if the pilot doesn't go at that network, then that pilot kind of dies because that network owns it. So you can't really like shop around a
But then how do
pilot.
they move? But it's only with pilots?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Okay, so what
Yeah.
happened with Father Dowling?
So it was on NBC for one season, and it was up against Perfect Strangers and Full House
Oof.
on ABC and Beauty and the Beast on CBS, which I have on DVD.
So that started in the 80s.
That started in the 80s,
Okay.
and it also
too unforgotten.
oh
Show.
definitely. My grandma loved Beauty and the Beast. I don't know. Have you seen an episode of that show?
I think I just saw it on TV as a kid and not really understanding what I was seeing, but I've never actually. Same with Moonlighting. Wasn't it on before or after Moonlighting? Or maybe it's just Moonlighting, but one of them is an animal. But it's the same kind of show.
It's not funny. It's not a funny show. It's very
Right.
fantasy. It was created by George R.R. Martin. I'm not kidding you. Like
I don't think you are.
And it is like this Renaissance, like kind of like there's this underground.
Oh yeah,
to
I know
New
what
York.
it is. I think I just never.
It's
at the time of my life when I would have been interested in watching it, it probably was not available.
right. It's very romantic. It's there's
Well,
a
it's
lot of
Rob. Who's the guy in the Who's the Beast? The guy who plays Hellraiser.
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman.
Yeah. And Linda Hamilton. And like they've got this like sort of and
mutants live underground.
Yes.
It's kind of like Futurama.
And they all wear like Shakespearean garb and like sort of talk in this as if they're at a Renaissance festival. And it's very odd.
Okay, wait, let's get back to
yes. Anyway, so obviously Father Dowling Mysteries like had no chance against those powerhouses.
But it didn't make enough of an impact in the first season to retain. I mean, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it does seem like it seems like a copycat of Murder, She Wrote.
Definitely.
So I think it just couldn't carve off enough of that Murder, She Wrote audience to
exactly. Yeah.
So I never. I mean, the show. I just recall seeing it with my parents vaguely. There was a brief period of my childhood when I wanted to be a nun because I was not Catholic and I did not go to church and I did not even watch The Sound of Music, but I just knew of it as a job. And I was like, well, that sounds easy. It's like, it's your job.
That sounds easy. I love that being the reason you wanted to be a nun. You're like, okay.
For simplification of things. And this seemed like you live where you work. And that seemed really simple.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I can tell you, I could, and like, definitely, I mean, we'll get into it, but like Steve is a very fun nun. So so she makes,
maybe that's why
she sells the profession, you know? But so after it moved to NBC, oh my gosh, it moved to Thursday. So like it was on Friday nights at 8 p.m. on NBC. And then when it moved to ABC, it was on Thursdays at 8 p.m. and it was up against 48 Hours, which real life crimes, boring. And then on NBC was The Cosby Show in a Different World. And I was like, oh, I mean, nobody was watching Father Dowling Mysteries up against those two shows. So
we're here to give it its due.
Yes.
I mean, as I described, it's a show about a priest and a nun who work at a church the priest
work.
It doesn't sound like they work, but I mean, I guess it's a job. They work.
Well, they barely,
they barely work.
They barely work. Like that's kind of like the running gag is that they're always like running off. They're like, oh, okay, well, we like to, on our off time, we like to solve crimes. But they're really just shirking their duties.
But I would argue that is not, I did not perceive it as a gag. I perceived it as like a complete oversight. It didn't seem like a wink wink to me. But anyway, so let's just talk about the pilot. So this is, again, we've saddled ourselves with a double pilot, which is so long, an hour and a half long.
I was mad at you, Rachel. I was like, an hour and a half? You've got to be kidding me.
Okay, but let's say it right here that we don't have to watch the first episode of things. Let's say the next time, let's say it's a double. let's just skip
We'll
ahead to
just
episode
skip
number
ahead.
2.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
We don't
yeah.
have to be
we have
precious about it.
we can be nice to ourselves.
So-
I just wanted to say before we started with the pilot that I have no history with this show. I have no memory of it at all. I don't even remember ads for it, like commercials for Father Dowling Mysteries. So
I think I remember it in the way that you remember just something from a kid that you're not sure was real or not. Like that might have been a dream.
like a fever dream.
It might
Yeah.
favorite dream or something someone told me that I misconstrued. Like this. Okay, so this is a digression, but this
Yes.
is something really funny that my son said to me today. So he said we were driving home from his learning pod down Broad. It's like just 3 miles up and down Broad Street. So I'm just on Broad Street the entire time. And he said, "Who are all the people walking around wearing the long black sheets?" And I said, "Where?" He's on the street. They're wearing like it's long, it's black, and then they have like coverings on their faces and they're wearing their regular clothes over top. And I said,
Like,
where? And he said, yeah, he lost his mind. He said, what do you mean? You don't see them? You haven't seen them? What are you talking about? Like he was so upset. And I said, I might have seen them. Maybe it's the way you're describing them. Can you point one out now? And then like for the next 10 minutes, you could not point one out. I was thinking he might mean a sanitation worker because
okay.
because it's winter, people are always wearing black. Like people are just wearing like black shirts, black pants, black gloves, black hat, or delivery people. Like you see delivery people and they're all in black. And he insisted that they weren't just wearing black clothes, that they were wearing a black sheet or something.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him, maybe only kids can see them.
Oh my gosh.
That's when he really lost his mind. He said, but you were a kid once. And I was like, maybe I've forgotten about it. Maybe my memory was right.
Yeah, it's like the Polar Express where you go to North Pole and they give you a reindeer bell, and over the years as you grow up, you can't hear it anymore. But like
I'm intentionally fucking with him, but I know that he's reached the point in childhood when things get so confusing. You're like, what is going on? What do these things mean?
It sounds like your son is the kid from The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, now he's just like really, you've given him an anxiety because he thinks he's seeing ghosts. Well, you can't see them.
He started having dreams that break into his reality and that affect his mood.
Oh yeah, you were telling me he was mad at that character.
He was mad at Dipper from Gravity Falls, and he was leaving him meat notes because that's something bad to him in a dream. Anyway, so back to this show. Okay, so this is the most memorable part of this show. So it's one priest, one nun. The priest is played by longtime famous character actor Tom Bosley.
Yes.
And the nun is played by Tracy Nelson, who is only known for 2 things. One, being the sister of the twins from the band Nelson.
Yes.
Gunnar and Matthew, who had a wonderful hit called After the Rain, which I showed Greg after we watched this show.
Yeah,
I was seen before.
I was watching that video right before we got on. I was like, oh yes.
But all 3 of them are the children of Ricky Nelson, who was famous in the 60s. He had a lot of big hits like Stood Up, Broken Hearted, and Garden Party, and they were all on the show. Was it called the Nelsons? Or was it Father Knows Best? Ozzie and Harriet.
Yeah. So like they are
Hollywood royalty.
So Ozzie and Harriet are OG. Then Ricky Nelson was their son who was on the show with them. And then
his kids are Gunnar and Matthew, who formed a hair metal duo called Nelson that had one hit. And their sister's Tracy, who became an actress, got on the Father Dowling Mysteries. And then, as far as I know, she did 2 things. Father Dowling Mysteries, and then she played one of Jerry Seinfeld's girlfriends in one of the later episodes. Oh my God, did you not remember this?
No.
Okay, as I'm saying it, I'm watching Val's face, and she's actually realizing this for the first time.
Yeah.
The episode of Seinfeld where he has a girlfriend that looks exactly like him, and everyone keeps saying how they look alike.
Oh my God! And she cuts her hair.
Yeah, in the end, she cuts her hair, and they look exactly the same.
That's okay. So I have to say
that's her.
So there's actually a surprising amount of stuff about Tracy Nelson that I found fascinating. Also, she's the niece of Mark Harmon, which I thought was interesting.
On what side? Well, I guess it's her
on
mom,
her mom's side. Yeah. So I was like, okay. Also, she played Courtney Thorne Smith's sister Meredith on Melrose Place, which was pretty good. But I have to say, when I was watching this episode, which again, like this is the first episode of the show I've ever seen. I was like, I recognize this person. I cannot figure out why. And then the reason I know her is so funny. I know her because, so for whatever reason, my family had a taped off of TV, made for TV movie in our collection. And it was a Meredith Baxter Birney made for TV movie about bulimia called Kate's
Oh, was she the one that
Secret.
had the, wait, did she keep the jars in the closet?
No, so
Oh.
she's like this woman in her mid 30s who has bulimia, and they're like the first like third of the movie is her like binging and purging. She just like gets stressed out, and then she'll just go, there's this whole montage where she's going to fast food joint after fast food joint and like buying all of this food and then just shoving it in her mouth. Like she's really just gorging herself. And then like there's another scene where she has a party at her house and something happens where she gets in a fight with her husband. And so afterwards, he goes up to bed. They're angry. And she just kind of like, bulimia is my coping mechanism. So she just looks at all of the party food leftovers and just eats all of it. It is just, she's shoving food in her mouth. And this movie, I don't know why it was why we had it, why someone in my family thought we should tape it, but we had it. And the reason I know Tracy Nelson is because she was one of the people in the treatment center that Meredith Baxter Birney gets sent to recover from bulimia.
Okay, and that's why you're gonna say she's their daughter or something.
No, she's a fun-loving character named Patch who comes to a bad end. But that is why I was racking my brain and I was like, oh, Kate's Secret. Ah!
Yeah, I think she was just kind of in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she did. I mean, she was also I think she was in the After the Rain video.
Yes, she plays the mom. Okay, we got to stop. She plays the mom. She plays the mom. The mom of the teen in the intro, and like they intentionally don't show her face because she's too young to be the mother of a teenager.
I know, it makes no sense. But
what I'm wondering is, was Tom Bosley on Murder, She Wrote and this show at the same time? Because he was
I don't
sheriff,
know,
right? Well, okay,
yeah, he was on Murder, She Wrote for I think the first 5 seasons, but he wasn't on every episode. And so I don't know if he like left that show to star in his own old person solving crimes show or what, or if he was doing double duty.
I have to say, at least it makes more sense to have a murder show set in Chicago than some small town in Maine.
Yes.
Like, they could feasibly have a murder there every week within a few blocks of the parish, and it doesn't seem that unreasonable.
Right.
And it's based on a series of books. Father Dowling Mysteries were some sort of books. But like I would say just the vibe, the setup, the acting, the sensibility, everything about it is Murder, She Wrote. It's just
it's very
it's just like Murder, She Wrote with different people.
Right.
And the other interesting character is there's like a kind of a maid or a housekeeper that works at the parish, and she's Mary Wicks, who's a longtime Hollywood actress, and she was in White Christmas. She played the exact same role in White Christmas. She was like the colonel's assistant,
the maid, and I literally screamed when I saw her in the credits. I was like, Mary Wicks, I love her. So and she was also in Sister Act. She was in one of the nuns.
So she's doing what she's doing. I play secretary type. She's doing I live in a parish type.
She's a sassy like housekeeper type. She's always like zingers, but that's her role, is always just like something domestic.
Okay, so we agreed we're going to do kind of a looser recap this time because honestly, the plot of the show is not that interesting.
Also, I have to say it's an hour and a half and like there are like 5 too many twists.
Yeah. But the basic, but what is strange about it is that this is a pilot and there is no setup at all.
No.
they show you the first scene is the soon to be victim going about his day. And basically basically he's a guy who is leading some sort of double life and gets killed, but he gets killed right near the parish where Father Dowling and Steve the nun, which is short for what again?
Stephanie.
I've never heard anyone called Steve.
No, but she's streetwise. That's what she's Steve.
You know? Her dad was an alcoholic, and like she's from the neighborhood.
Yeah, and she has a really funny accent.
Wait. I was gonna surprise you, Val, with a new segment called Accent Corner.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I'll wait.
Okay. Well, actually, I put Accent Corner is pretty high up on my list of things to do. So we can do Accent Corner now. Okay. So Tom Bosley actually is from Chicago. So I would say he has a realistic, faint, not over the top Chicago accent. And Greg made a great point. We were watching it. He said, Patton Oswalt should play Tom Bosley in a recap.
Oh my God. That would be great. That would be great. And also, so Aaron's comment about Tom Bosley was, he just like was obsessing over the smooth purr of his voice.
Yes. Voiceover. He's got a good voiceover voice.
It's so comforting. He just like it. You feel like it's like a warm hug.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tom Bosley, I love you. You know,
there's the velvety,
yes,
kind of like yeah. So what Tracy Nelson is doing that I think is that she is from Southern California, so she is trying to do some sort of Eastern urban accent, which is when people are acting like they're from Philly, they do a New York accent because it's the only regional East Coast accent that people know. And that's what she's doing. She sounds like she's from Brooklyn.
Yeah, she sounds like she's from New York. She's like, I'm from the street. And you know, like this guy over here, I knew him from the street, you know, and you're just like, that's not Chicago at all.
So I actually thought the accent was real. And I thought that she was just from New York but you know, then I confirmed that she was from Southern California. So I think their accent's pretty good. It's just the wrong one.
It just doesn't make any sense. You know, like, especially since she's, you know, saying that she grew up in the neighborhood, it doesn't make any sense, but you know, it's just sort of shorthand for she's tough. She's from the streets.
This has been the first segment of Accent Corner.
Accent Corner.
Accent Corner is over now. Okay. So the plot is basically that this guy is up to no good and he gets killed like right at the steps of the parish. And then he wanders into the confessional booth and the last person he sees before he dies is Father Dowling. And he whispers something like, look behind the mirror. Delmonico's. Look like a name and look behind the mirror, and he dies. And then he goes to call the police, and when he comes back, the body is gone.
Right. Woo! And it's called the Missing Body Mystery, which is not a very
because the body is missing for maybe 3 minutes of the show because they locate the body within 3 minutes.
Right. I do want to say, I don't want to skip over basically my favorite part of the whole episode was as the victim is stumbling through the church, you know, clutching his several bullet wounds. We cut to Tom Bosley in the confessional, and he is hearing a confession from a woman who...
The first and last joke in the whole show.
Yeah, it's so hilarious because she's just like...
She can't decide between like Phil and Tom.
She can't decide between John and Michael. And she's like, I think I love Michael more than John. And Tom Bosley's like, well, I think you might love Michael a little differently since he's your cat and John is your husband. And I was like, I love the idea that there's a cat named Michael in this world. Like, yes. Michael, get down, Michael.
Let me just say the basic plot. So this guy gets murdered, and then immediately Father Dowling and Steve just start investigating it.
Yeah.
And at no point do they have a conversation like, should we investigate it? Is it dangerous to investigate it? Do we have other things to do?
No.
Start doing it, which it makes me feel like that it wasn't filmed as the pilot because it's so strange.
Well, I think
there's no hero call to duty, call to action, hero's journey stuff.
From what I read, like the actual there was a movie, and then this is 2-hour movie that might have had more setup. And this is the first, and that was from 1987. And then like there was a writer's strike and all sorts of stuff happened. And so this is the first actual episode of the show, but it might not be the pilot.
Right. But they're
technically.
Right, I know, but like they're really depending on the audience being like, yeah, we got it. Let's jump ahead.
Yeah. They don't do any like real like setting up for us at all.
But the plot is pretty uninteresting. This guy was like an FBI informant about probably one of the most boring fake crimes you could ever.
It's like guns,
arms dealing. It's
arms dealing.
So
yeah,
boring.
Yes,
arms dealing. Something about arms dealing, and this guy was a double informant, and multiple times the bad guys go to a lot of effort to make Father Dowling and Steve go away by like tricking them or paying actors to be people to like throw them off the trail. Many times at which they would have been murdered already. Like they've murdered all these other people, but they're like, we don't want to murder these two. We want to invest like a few $1,000s into training, hiring people to make them go away.
Well, they also, they make a point of it that since, they are a priest and a nun, they actually kind of get a little bit of edge out of that from like in their investigation.
They are just allowed into crime scenes.
Yes.
They are allowed into the coroner's office. They are handed, they live in a world where a dead body, the face of someone who's dead is printed in a paper, I guess.
Yeah.
He identifies the guy. He's like, well, here's his face. They printed the face of a dead body in the paper. And then he takes the paper to the doorman at what they realize is an apartment building called Delmonico's, which is what the guy was saying before he died.
Which is like totally by chance, by the way.
No, they just drive by.
Just driving.
This is what is so Murder, She Wrote about it. It's like, I saw a billboard, a penny rolled in front of me and it reminded me, like, there's no investigative work in it whatsoever. It's just like, guess, happenstance, and coincidence.
Well, but Rachel, I have to say, is it God's intervention?
They don't say so.
Is God helping them solve these crimes?
Multiple times.
Because there is a lot of luck involved.
Well, but Jessica also has luck in Murder, She Wrote. It's just like, or I would say most of the time, Jessica solves a crime by just doing the trick where the criminal just says something they're not supposed to know to her. She goes, how do you know that?
Right.
And then she's like, well, you did it. I'm saying that the doorman he looks at the photo of the dead body and goes, oh yeah, that guy lives here. And he just lets them into the building and just rummaging around the guy's stuff.
He says, if I can't trust a priest and a nun, who can I trust?
Someone who bought a priest uniform?
Yeah, exactly. Someone who's dressed up like a priest and a nun. Okay, I don't know. Like
there's one other funny joke, which is that there's a guy who, one of the original misleading, what's the word? Like false trails.
Red herrings.
Red herring. Well, so whoever takes the body at the beginning, they move it somewhere and then they pretend like he was shot in Skid Row, and they have this guy. They try
to make it seem like
a pansy, but then they kill that guy. And when they go to try to find this guy, they find that he's just been killed, and I don't know how, but they realize he's Jewish. And so instead of saying the last rites, Father Dowling says the last rites in Hebrew, and she said, "How did you know that?" And he goes, "My best friend is a rabbi."
Right. You're like, ah ha 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 ha. Yeah, Eddie the artist is the name of that homeless person.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter. But they basically just like,
no, it doesn't.
Anyway, eventually they figure the whole thing out and like just get past every kind of trap that these bad guys put in front of them. There's a whole plot where Steve basically gets a job in a strip club as a bartender to get intel, because
my favorite
is where the bad guys are operating out of, and she just starts slinging drinks cocktail style.
Yeah,
like Cocktail, she
like
gets the job.
I guess living on the streets, she learned all of these, like there's a scene.
She learned how to make Singapore slings.
Right. She knows how to make all these drinks. She all these bottles are flying around. Has all of these moves, but also earlier, she's playing like 3-card Monty. There's a lot of she knows how to pick locks. she's got a lot of like underworld skills.
She doesn't seem to know a lot
but
about church.
no, they don't bother to, you know, sort
Well,
of
they never show them doing
establish
any kind of
why.
work. Right. I mean, they
No.
don't show, I mean, besides the beginning when he's doing the confessional, they are, I mean, I guess they're doing behind the scenes stuff where they're talking to the bishop or something. Like there's another subplot
Right.
where there's this upstart priest that's trying to kind of like, he's vying for Father Dowling's job and he's kind of hanging around and being annoying. And
Yes, and he
he
is
manages to get
always
rid of
eating
him.
all of the yeah,
Yeah.
he's always eating all of the food.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's sort of his trait. But he just seems, he's like, what are you, where were you guys, you know? And they're kind of like annoyed that he's, you know, in their business basically. And it's like, well, I mean,
To be
you
fair,
guys are yeah, you guys are supposed to be, I don't know, doing like priest and nun stuff, right? Not just traipsing all around town, like meddling basically.
the multiple times Father Dowling says that the reason why he's still pursuing this case is because this guy died at my parish. He was looking for my help. And I was like, I mean, you just happen to be there, really. He wasn't like looking for you or
Yeah, he got shot near, like if he got shot near like a school, he would have walked into the school and said, please help, someone please help me. You know, it was just really proximity.
But I'm really actually shocked that there's no even short conversation where they're like, should we do this? Because Steve the nun steals property. She
Mhm.
steals like they go into a bank and I think they pretend to be, I don't know what they pretend something in order to get bank statements about
Yes.
someone from someone's bank. They break in entering, they break into the club, they break into that warehouse, they break into multiple places.
Right.
I mean,
Oh
they
yeah.
commit a lot of crimes
Yes, they
without
are.
having a conversation about or hesitating for a second.
I sort of justified it, at least on Steve's end, that she just like is very, she'll do anything for Tom Bosley. So but she's sort of like a sidekick. But I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
I felt like they were both. Neither one seemed to be leading. They were just like totally working in tandem
Hmm.
the whole time. But that might be all my notes, Val.
That is it really?
Towards the end, they need to find the list of all the people who've been paid off, and she breaks into the warehouse, and like she's gone for maybe like 2 minutes. She goes, "I found the list." I'm like, yeah, you just like walk into someone's office, you go to the file cabinet, and there's a folder marked payoffs, and you go in and you find the list of the payoffs, and then you're done.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. And it, you know, it ends up being this woman who, is she a bureau chief of the FBI or is that a lie?
I was
She's,
not.
I couldn't,
I wasn't clear.
I was getting confused because there were so many turnabouts that I
It
couldn't.
did seem weird that there was absolutely no buffer between the Chicago police and this FBI. It was just like this woman was like, "I work for the FBI," and they're like, "Okay, I
Right.
guess."
All right. She was like, this is my operation and you bungled it. But like, then she also was somehow like, she was actually not, you know, on the up and up. And I don't know. There were so many twists that I got turned around. Like by the end, I couldn't figure out what was actually true. But I do have to say that she did wear some like really amazing fur coats
Yes.
that were
I mean, it looked like it
just
was actually filmed in Chicago. It was
Mhm.
there was snow on the ground. It looked cold.
Yeah, and in the credits, Tom Bosley is wearing a satin Cubs jacket, which that was like when I was watching the credits, I was like, well, that shows that he's fun.
I have to say, like, I know that I'm reading way too much into this, but something about his manner really annoyed me. Like, he was very, I mean, he was calm and respectful. He wasn't rude to anybody, but he just seemed very like he was better than everyone. You know?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
he's just so very, he seemed this perfect balance of condescending and aloof.
yeah.
He was condescending to everybody but also like above it, like he didn't seem, I mean maybe that's what a priest is, but he didn't seem like he actually had any emotional connections to anything. Like They were
No, he
about to,
didn't.
they were about to send him to Anchorage, and he was like, well, but I mean, I guess that's also probably what it takes to be a priest. Like, you can't
yeah,
really hang
he
up on
did
that stuff.
seem really unaffected by it all. You know, like they were in danger a lot, and his levels never really, oh, I'm scared, or oh, I'm sad about this. It was all the same note, which was this kind of like disengaged sort of
Right. Like, I think that when you watch a show about, what's the word? Like, I guess, like, not always criminal, but like dangerous activities, right?
yeah.
Either you want to watch someone who's a smooth operator, who's like done this a million times and who impresses you, and you're like, wow, like, imagine being that person who has all
Look
the
at
skills.
Magnum PI. Look at him
Or you
go.
want to be
Yeah.
like the bumbling fish out of water, what's the word for, like, stand-in for the audience. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah,
And
right.
that someone who's in the middle, who's just like, well, that is neither of those things. It's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around. Like, I've been watching Search Party. Have you
Oh
seen
yeah,
that show?
I've never watched that show.
Well, that's a good
I've been
example
meaning
of like
to it.
people getting involved in crimes and being like complete spazzes because,
Yeah.
but it's very funny. And but like that, I think, is a more realistic of like what would happen if someone was actually thrown into. I don't know. I
Yeah.
know I'm overanalyzing this, but it was so long. I mean, it was like an hour and a half.
Jessica Fletcher, like,
She's the same way.
She's the same way, but kind of almost, she's sort of like almost annoyed that she has to, like, she's like, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
She's
a little
also
fun.
condescending. You know, I don't like her. She's also condescending and aloof.
You don't like Jessica Fletcher?
I don't, maybe I don't, I guess I don't feel a warmth from her. I feel like like her true English chilliness.
Uh-huh.
Like, she doesn't seem to actually care. I don't know.
No, she doesn't.
She doesn't really care about anybody. She's just
right.
like,
well, and I think that was a thing about Father Dowling, where it didn't seem like he really cared about this guy's welfare, this guy who died. It was almost more of this like personal mission where it's like,
a
I
duty.
want to figure it out. I will figure it out, you know? And it seemed like there was a lot of like collateral damage in the process that he didn't really concern himself with, you know? It was very possible that, you know, the wife of the deceased man really didn't want someone being meddling in, and he just, like, that didn't affect him, even though that was a gag.
There's also a part where the bad guys send a woman and a child to come to him to pretend to be the widow and the daughter of the deceased man and say, please don't investigate further. They're going to pay for us and take care of us, and I have no other recourse. I want you to leave this alone. And they leave. And I could tell, based on my, you know, sophisticated intuition, that those were actors in the show. But he could also tell, and he said because he could tell because the dead guy had blue eyes and she had blue eyes and the daughter had brown eyes. I'm like, have you heard of adoption, you fucking moron?
Right. And also, like, you remember that guy who died in your confessionals, the color of his eyes?
Also, that is not how eye color works, we now know.
Oh?
I looked it up because one of my sons has like a completely unexpected eye color. And when I was in high school, we were taught like one gene for one eye color, pretty simple.
And then
now they say that that's not true because there's multiple genes that influence eye color, not just one.
Oh, wow.
I spent some time Googling this.
Just to unsolve the mystery.
Because I have green eyes and Greg has blue eyes and Oscar has blue eyes. And then my other son has dark brown eyes, almost black.
Huh.
And no one in my family has brown eyes. And no one in his family has brown eyes.
Huh.
But yeah, biologists, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's what I looked up. And
email us at slidersandwings@gmail.com if you have
but as long as it's not too complicated, because I'm kind of a dodo. So I have some thoughts about murder mystery on TV, murder mysteries in general.
I thought you would, because you love a murder mystery show.
I do. So I think there's a big so the murder mystery books that I've read, I only read Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot murder mysteries.
Not Miss Marple.
Nope.
Ooh.
Not any of that. I only read Hercule Poirot. And what I like about the Hercule Poirot mysteries is that theoretically I could solve the crime. I know everything he knows. He puts everything together with the given information. Sometimes I've read other crime books where when you see it all put together in the end, it reveals things that I did not know.
Yeah.
Which I feel is so unfair
It's cheating.
and not fun. It's not fun
cheating.
at all. And I guess I feel this way about, like, I mean, Law and Order is really murder mystery too, right? It's
yeah, it's definitely a
murder. I mean, crime shows, murder mystery shows. They're all kind of
they're all in the same genus.
I think that the way that TV is in America, it's not fun to watch at all because you know who did it or who did not do it based on characterization, like whether they're hitting the beats at the right time. Like a Law and Order. Like nobody who's watching Law and Order thinks that the first person that they bring in is the one who did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So they're like, they look at their clock and go, okay, so it's 10:12. I guess
that is
not the guy.
That's just he's just wasting our time until we get to the right person.
I mean, it takes all the fun out. I mean, like the formulaic nature of crime TV shows just takes all of the fun out of it. So it's really just like, I don't know. I've stopped watching Law and Order a long, long time ago. Murder, She Wrote, I don't think is even fun either because the crimes are so goofy.
Yeah, they are really, really goofy. I had a streak where I was watching a lot of Murder, She Wrote just because I really did like how goofy the crimes were, and also it is replete with like guest stars that you're like, oh wow, it's Bryan Cranston. Or like they're like really young actors who are like big deals now are in this like weird soft focus Jessica Fletcher dumb mystery. It's always like fun to watch.
Did you ever watch Monk?
Yes, I did.
Monk was kind of like a latter day Murder, She Wrote. Like the murders were ridiculous and goofy, but the characters were fun and there was some humor to it.
Yeah.
And like it was enjoyable, like a good dynamic.
Yeah, the team was what, like, it was almost on Monk, the crimes are almost ancillary. What you really care about is like how fun the team is. You've got like Tony Shalhoub, you've got I think the character's name was Valerie. But like you're
no, it was Sharona.
Sharona, that's right. Sharona.
Where's she been?
But like they had such a great dynamic that you just had a lot of fun watching them figure it out, that it didn't matter to you whether you were trying to solve the crime yourself. You're just like
I mean, I would love a murder mystery show that would come along where some of them would end up being cold cases. Some of them would be unsolved. Some of them would be wrapped up in 10 minutes. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe this will be a 10-minute show this week. Maybe it'll be a 40-minute show. Surprise me.
You're so demanding.
I want what I want and I want it now. But I think the idea of Murder, She Wrote is cute and we like watching with the 80s stuff and the cameos.
Sure.
But when I went back and watched some Murder, She Wrote in the past few years when it's not on Netflix anymore, but when it was, I watched some of it. And I just felt this real dislike of Jessica. Like, I don't think her characterization is interesting at all.
No.
She's not funny. She doesn't have any strong relationships with anybody because she's like with a different person every week. It's like a different niece or a nephew.
Yeah, it's always like someone visiting her, or it's like, oh, you're in town.
But to me, she's it's the way I think of people in New England. It's like this New England character, like individualistic, cold.
Yeah. I'm oysters, going my own way type of lady.
Cable knit sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
Chopping wood.
I think she does get by with like the sort of grandmother vibe that she gives off. Ooh.
I think she'd be a very cold grandmother. She just doesn't seem warm.
She would make you like write thank you notes during your like time with her. Like,
yes.
you're okay. Now we're sitting at the kitchen table and we are writing thank you notes. Like, Grandma, can we play a board game? No.
Oh, I'm super excited for next week because we're gonna do The Single Guy,
Yeah, hell yeah.
which should have been much more. I mean, okay, I haven't watched it yet, but I remember it being hilarious. Hilarious.
I remember watching the first. I mean, I watched that show. Like this, Father Dowling Mysteries. No, this is. There's no history there. I don't know anything about it, but I did enjoy watching it. To be fair, but like I remember The Single Guy when it started. I was like, as a kid, being like, this is going to be a huge hit. This is the next,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
blockbuster show. And then it was gone in 2 seasons.
And it had an interracial marriage, which
That's
now that I
right.
think about it, I can't think of any other interracial marriages that were on TV in the 90s.
Right.
It was Johnny's. Oh my God. We haven't researched this yet. I shouldn't get into it, but it was
Jonathan Silverman?
No, it was
that guy.
Slotkin.
Joey Slotnick. That's right.
And she's funny. I wonder what she's doing. But like then after The Single Guy, I think she was doing like dramas, and I was like, oh, but she was so funny on The Single Guy.
Well, she was on ER for a really long time.
Funny.
Yeah, really funny on ER. So
who was that funny guy on ER? Oh yeah, nobody.
Actually, there is one funny guy on ER, and his name is Scott Grimes, who he was like shows up in later seasons, and he's just like always doing bumbling things. But he was actually a child actor.
Redhead.
He was in. Did you ever see the movie Critters?
Oh my God, he's from Lowell, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Strange. Oh wait, he's married to Adrienne Palicki.
Who?
Okay, no, sorry. Okay, I thought that was someone else. I thought that was the woman from America's Next Top Model. Never mind.
Oh yeah, that's who I thought too. So.
No, it's some other person. So wait, what was he in?
He was. Did you ever see the movie Critters?
No.
It was sort of like a B movie, sort of a ripoff of Gremlins in the 80s. He was also in a made-for-TV movie that was also a classic in my house because it was Christmassy. It was The Night They Saved Christmas, starring Jacqueline Smith. And Scott Grimes played one of her kids. But it's Jacqueline Smith and Art Carney, and it is a Christmas movie about oil drilling.
No, I have to find out what I know him from, because the things that you were saying are not the things that I know.
There's nothing.
He was
no recollection.
He was in a show called Foofer.
What's that? Oh my God. He's been in a lot of stuff. But
yeah,
he might
just have a face. He was on an episode of Wings.
Oh.
He was on an episode of Star Trek. He was on Charles in Charge. Oh wait, no, that's just one episode. All right.
You'll figure it out.
He was on Party of Five.
Oh. That might be it.
I watched that. Is that a forgotten show of the 90s? Too popular?
I want to say that Party of Five would be remembered, but I'm sort of having trouble with that because it's like some shows you're like, that show is totally remembered, but like remembered by who?
I think Party of Five is in the.
It's in the
I feel like if you were watching Beverly Hills, you were also watching that.
Yes.
And I feel like the ugly stepchild of that genre that we are going to do is The Heights.
Yeah.
So let's save it for The Heights.
Right.
That
exactly.
Definitely was a loser.
That's a loser.
Okay. Well, this has been super fun.
Yes.
And I look forward to doing the same thing.
Yes.
Next week.
The Single Guy.
All right. You know what we could do? We could put the link to the viewing The Single Guy in this episode description.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
People get ready for the next week.
Although if we blast it out too much, they might take it down.
Oh, that's true.
We don't want to. I don't know if we want to like
our 30 views.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't know if. Yeah, I don't know if we want to advertise our secrets.
Okay. So people have to email us to get the link, I guess.
If you want to see The Single Guy, because it really looks like it's been scrubbed from existence.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it anywhere. It's not streaming.
Where is this one? Is it Daily Motion or something?
No, it might be. I think it's a YouTube. I think it's a YouTube link. So that's not too bad. But usually,
So you guys could just look for the premiere episode of Single Guy.
But there's truly like just one episode up. Like that's it. That's what's left of that show.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. You think they put it on Peacock?
I mean, maybe we could just send an email to Jonathan Silverman and see if he's got some tapes.
I bet he does. He just like watches them alone in his apartment. He's like, remember when I was on?
Remember when I had that show that was going to be a copy of Seinfeld?
Yeah, but mixed with Friends. It's Seinfeld, but with a Friends sensibility.
Right. It's not in a cafe and it's not in a diner. It is a diner. I don't know. But it's set in a food establishment, basically.
And also an apartment.
Which is similar to both those shows.
Yeah, exactly. But
all right.
Next
week.
I think that'll do her.
Could that be our sign off?
That'll do her.
That'll do her.
And that'll do her.
That'll do her.
That'll do her.
That'll do her. That'll do her.
That'll do her. That sounds dirty.
Okay. Goodbye.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Rachel. Oh, this has been Sliders and Wings
with Val and Rachel. slidersandwings@gmail.com.
Right. Email us if you feel the inclination.
Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.